Is at the allotted time, I'd like to call the planning commission to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move to approve as distributed.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Review for approval of the March 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes. Anybody got any questions about it? I'd look for approval of the March 2nd meetings minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Susie,
I'll second.
second by Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Has anybody got any questions about the comprehensive plan before we call a public hearing? Hearing no questions, I would ask anybody in the public want to make any comments on the public hearing? Hearing none. I'd ask again, does anybody in public have any comments on a public hearing? Hearing none. I'd ask for anybody in the public have any comments on a public hearing? Hearing none, I would close the public hearing. Dave, do you want to consider the resolution for adoption?
Yeah, we're hoping to have a motion to have a resolution sent to city council for adoption. Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay. And we're looking for a resolution for the planning commission to adopt it so that and bring it to council for approval. Commission approve it?
I'll make that motion. Is that what you need as a motion?
Yes, right.
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Susie made the motion. Have a second?
I'll second.
Donna made the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This means the resolution will go to council on Tuesday for approval.
Is there anything that, do we want to ask Ken as long as he's here from Cedar Corp? You know, about comp plan, where we're at, type things?
No, just to thank the planning commission for their involvement. The document, as you know, kept a lot of the original format. What that does obviously is it keeps it right on point with the statutes. And you can check all the boxes that the statute says that your plan has incorporated. So that's sometimes I've seen documents kind of stray away from that. And but your process held on to that. You've got all the requirements in there, the goals, objectives, the policies, the recommendations, the analyses, the maps, and so forth. So from that standpoint, it moves on. If down the road, there's a certain section of your city that needs some special attention in terms of more detailed land use or vision, it's not uncommon to go into that area and develop a master plan, very specific. You can start getting into more, architectural standards, building design standards. This is a comprehensive plan. It's called comprehensive for a reason. That is number one. Make sure you're statutorily compliant. You can check that box. As I mentioned earlier, it has all that. But I'm just advising, the planning commission that as you move forward with the comprehensive plan, if, some of the stuff is too general and you need some more specific vision, you can always go in and do a specific master plan or more detailed research that will give you more of the detailed guidance that you desire. So, but what you've done here is you'll be now in compliance with the statutes for the next 10 years. And that's a good feeling to know that if you're ever challenged on some decision you make, that you are in compliance with the statute. And that's a big thing. It really is. And There've been a lot of things going on certain types of uses out on the landscape where guidances are being challenged. And one of the first things that's looked at in the court of law, if you ever were challenged, is do you have a compliant plan? And you can certainly say that you do. So that should be a kudos to you and all the work that you've did. So if nothing else, that's pretty much all I have to offer on that. And if you got any questions, I'm here and take those back.
Anybody have any questions of them? I guess we'll go on to 7, Dave. That's you?
I think Chad is going to speak to number 7.
I'm gonna take number 7. So in your packet, like the agenda says, review and approve the North Water Street, Pearl Street plat for the 2024 reconstruction project. So this is one of the check boxes we need to go through for our upcoming 2024 street reconstruction project. The reason this is being done is because we have that STP urban grant. So one of the things I really want to kind of go through in depth is from what my understanding, what this means. So we've got to put this plat together, and this correlates with an appraisal process that we need to look at for obtaining temporary limited easements, TLEs, and then also obtaining some corners that I've indicated in some past meetings for compliance to make our sidewalks and our pedestrian paths compliant. So I just want to kind of go through this in detail, what the engineers have come up with. So like you see on the map, and this is the Shawano Street, North Water Street. So Dairy Queen's right on the corner down here. All these shaded areas where they've got these TLEs, those are temporary limited easements. So for example, once we get farther into North Water Street, the plan is to replace concrete sidewalk, roadway, everything from building to building. With these funds, the contractor cannot go onto private property to change anything unless there's a TLE or a temporary limited easement, basically providing permission for the contractor to step on that property. We want to change off the sidewalk, the concrete sidewalks on the property, at the private side as well. We don't want to change up just to the property line and have old private sidewalk concrete that might be mismatching up and down, not compliant. So we need to get those TLEs. Then there's a couple of these corners where we actually would need to purchase the property to change this in the right of way. The reason being is for some of these sidewalk slopes, if you can imagine here, the sidewalk, actually bring up Google Maps to be easier as well. For compliance with these sidewalk cutouts, we need enough room in the back with a flat slope to make it compliant. So a wheelchair, when they're making a transition from one path to another, turning around the corner, it's not compliant for them to take a wheelchair or, walker or anything down into the dip to come back up on the sidewalk. So they need enough flat space behind it. So in these areas, we need to purchase enough right of way. We'll turn into right of way. So we've got enough sidewalk back here that's flat and not into the transition down into the cutout into the roadway. So they've identified in these little sections that we would need to negotiate and purchase with these property owners to purchase these properties. Here you can see it's just a little bit that by the Dairy Queen intersection. This hash mark line right here indicates the building. So that would be the edge of the building right here. And then this is the existing sidewalk. So in this particular case, it would be probably this little itty bitty corner right here that we would have to purchase. And this one, a little bit of space right here to get enough flat sidewalk for the ramp. That would be in this area right here. Again, everything with the dotted line or the dots, that would be just temporary limited easements. We have to pay for that. But once the project is done, those easements go away. Go on to the next page here. So this is the Wisconsin intersection. Does not look like we need to purchase any new right of way. We must own enough of the public right of way to be compliant with these sidewalks here. Again, you can see how much private sidewalk or private right of, or private area we would have to purchase to maybe change out those sidewalks on the private side here. This is Taft Park, so obviously we don't have to pay ourselves for a right of way. Once we get to State Street, again, two little corners, same scenario. You can see the existing curb line is this light gray line. The existing sidewalk is here, and we would just have to purchase two little right-of-ways there. I'll bring up the map. Show those on State Street. So again, little corner here and here. And you might say, well, there's already, flat space here for, to be compliant. From my understanding is we need to have that as right-of-way to guarantee that it stays as a sidewalk. Because if this is private property, the property owner could come in here and do something to take away that flat space. So we need to make sure that the DOT wants to make sure that their funds guaranteed to stay in perpetuity, that corner stays compliant. And we'll continue to go down the street. Here we are at Lincoln Court. Because we're going to do that new parking lot here, the sidewalk cutout will more than likely be over here that we talked about with that little bump out. So there's no need to purchase property on the corner here to be compliant. And then we're going to own this over here with the parking lot. So we're fine there. But again, you can kind of see where these right-of-way areas that we need the temporary limited easements acquired to change the sidewalks up to the buildings. Let's see, St. John's Place. Temporary limited easement here. This is where the bank is, First State Bank is right now. St. John's Place is actually a right-of-way, but this is St. John's Park right here. It shows right-of-way, but this is actually the park. This is the inlet of the parking lot and the exit of the parking lot right here. Again, you can see as we go east, the areas that we would need to obtain these temporary limited easements. Once we get to the corner of North Water Street and Pearl, there are two areas again that we would have to look at purchasing to make those compliant. Looks like here, get us down the street. So at the auto shop, you can see the building transition is in the front right here. Looks like they're saying that we're going to need to purchase almost up to the building front. And I looked at the close-up of that. It looks like we would potentially be acquiring up to a foot up to the building right here. Similar to, there's about a foot right of way in front of all the other buildings around. So they're saying that we would need to acquire about a foot up to the building right now on that corner. Again, I'll show you what that looks like here. This would all become right of way. And also right here, the same situation on the south side. On the south side here. And I think that's pretty much that grass area right there. Actually, I can bring that up. Looks like we got to acquire this area here to make it compliant in the back. The maps are going to turn and go north. So again, this is North Water Street. This is Pearl Street. So we just turned. North is that way. And these are the two areas we just talked about. As we go farther north on Pearl Street, here's Associated Bank on the corner here of Park and North Pearl, and then it turns to turn into Wapaka Street. Again, a little area here. And we just found this out, I don't know, about a week or two ago, that a portion of the sidewalk is actually on Associated Bank's property here. And we got to acquire a little bit just to get the official ADA compliant width of the sidewalk. I reached out to Bill at Associated Bank, so he's got a heads up with this, and he told me his process that we have to go through on their end with that, so he's quite aware of that as well. So I know the council is aware, some of the planning commission people might not know, the city had to hire an appraisal company to come in, and they are doing the appraisals for all these right of ways, all these temporary limited easement areas and these areas that we would need to purchase. They do an appraisal on that and they'll start negotiating with the property owners on obtaining these. But again, we have to pay for it, get those signatures or purchase those little chunks of property, make our sidewalks compliant. So it sounds like this is the first step of the process that we need to approve this plat. This goes to the planning commission, then this goes to council, showing where all these easement areas are anticipated to be for this project. Any questions?
So it looks like on your map, the temporary easement goes into the entryways of the businesses as well.
Yep. So if there was concrete that kind of dipped into a cove in the buildings, here's a good example. You know, like right in here, you know, it wouldn't just stop and then old concrete beyond that. So yeah, it would be basically those little
So that will be,
walkways into the
that'll be
buildings.
replaced as well.
Correct.
Okay.
No charge to the property owner, part of the city's project. So no assessments regarding that.
Is there any
How about-
issue, is there any issue with it? Oh, excuse me, Donna, go ahead.
How about we have the property on the corner that has steps? We're not going to do their steps into the building, are we?
So like here, talking about a scenario like this,
So, right, similar to that.
we would just go up to the level of
First
the
step.
concrete. We are not touching the steps.
Okay,
There's two situations we had to work on some special scenarios. One, this set of steps is coming out into the right of way.
Hmm.
We worked on a permit process with them to allow it. It needs to be there. It's a emergency access out. But we were not replacing these steps. We're just gonna go around them. They're fine. And then we had to work on the same permitted process for the steps for the theater, because those come out in the right of way too. They have intentions of replacing those sometime in the future, so we kind of worked that out as well, but we are not replacing steps in any case. We're just replacing the flat concrete. Like in this case, just up to the step.
That was my comment. I was going to ask about the theater, what they were doing to the steps by the theater.
Yep. They would like to replace them, and we've got that worded in the permit, revocable occupancy permit that we worked with them on. I just think funding and things are an issue there, but yeah, these steps need to be replaced. They're not good.
They're not original.
They're not original. But that was part of the historical process.
Yeah.
Ken, you've probably gone through these processes more in the past as well, but yeah, that was part of the historical process, that we couldn't be detrimental to jeopardizing the future possibility that they would get, that they would apply for the National Registry. So again, yeah, those aren't compliant. They're not even up to code right now. I think the rise and run aren't up to code
correct.
today either, so.
So I have a question that may be historical about going into those businesses. And I believe like the 302 West North Water is one of the businesses.
Which one's that one? 302?
That would be the print shop.
Good job.
If you look in the front entrance there. Nope, I guess it's not him. Where's it at? When you go down the businesses, there's one that has, you might not be able to see it with the cars in the way. They have like marbled kind of decorative entry, and it's rather old.
It was there. We
Oh, you took it out?
treated it over because it was really slippery in the winter. People were slippering. Because
Okay.
it had like 204 in it, and it's like, that wasn't the right address anyway. So we just.
Yeah, so I was just kind of, so I was right, and I just haven't paid attention to the change. Yeah, I was just curious about stuff like that. If there was, and I'll pay a little bit more attention when I'm delivering tomorrow.
You know, there's the
But the
situation.
house,
like
but the building wouldn't be considered historic.
The only two that, through the study had the potential was the old city hall and the theater.
Okay,
So those were the only two that had the potential of being on the national registry.
okay. And it's a non-issue.
There was a question from the state whether the entire downtown could be considered a district. But that was determined that no. Because if that was the case, then there'd be a whole nother level of hoops to jump through with everything. So yeah, the appraiser that the city hired is going to kind of figure out. So say, you know, like this foot, what is that worth? I mean, I'm not going to know that. That's why the appraiser, they do this for a living. They're gonna know what it's worth to get that temporary limited easement, to have the property owner sign there, or, you know, like these little corners, what's this little chunk worth in the back here, and then negotiate on our behalf. All those are gonna come to council for approval, so it's not something that's just gonna happen with them. That all those are gonna come to council for final blessing. Over the process.
Like right there on that corner, if you're gonna have a bump out, where does the sidewalk come out on the street then? Could you like show the bump out, how would it go? And then where does the sidewalk or the crosswalk, where's that actually gonna be?
Let me see if I can find, and it's not that corner, it's over by the new parking lot. Bear with me. You guys remember what council meeting we looked at that last?
We had that special meeting where we were really looking at those.
When was that?
That was in February, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Even if you could just use this corner as an example and explain it. I just figured out this week, the purpose of a bump out is to give you more vision at the intersection.
So the current idea, if I can find it, the current idea right now, so Lincoln Court is going to turn into a parking lot. That's if I can just find it. But yeah, the intent is to get people to be out on the curb, but farther out into the street, so they're more visible to traffic going by. That's not at my fingertips right now, but there would be in this scenario, this side of the street, the north side of the street's gonna bump out a little bit, but then there's gonna be a driveway here for access into the new parking lot. And there's gonna be a single bump out on here, and then there's gonna be a crosswalk over on this side.
So it'll actually be down the street from where the bump out is and then not right at the corner.
It will not be at the corner. The bump out's gonna be on closer to the Ling Tank.
Yep.
Coming across here.
So then how would they cross Lincoln Court? Then that would be,
Lincoln, this is all gonna be new parking lot.
okay,
Correct. Well, not vacated. We're just gonna stop using it as a street. Because vacating and
okay.
there's terminology that we would have to give it back to the property owners.
the downtown planning meeting was 125.
125?
Yeah, but I'm not seeing any attachments.
Any other questions as I'm trying to look for that? There we go. So this is existing Lincoln Court. And here's the grass lot. Here's Lynn Tank. So it would turn into parking lot. You can envision that. And then the bump out is looking at right now, would be across here, and then this would be driveway. And there'd be a bump out on this side. And then the crosswalk here. Lined up with the, there'll be sidewalk along Lynn Tank's building to get access in the back here.
So my next dumb question is why is there a bump out across the street from that one?
Right here. To get people out to the road for the safety part of it.
Or,
What's that? For the crosswalk right here.
oh, okay.
DOT recommends that as a safety project.
We had a lot of meetings on that.
Oh,
The
I-
council can recall. Yep.
I understand. That's why I was asking for an explanation. Why that.
Mhm.
But it makes sense.
And then we're in the process of purchasing the southern parking lot of First State Bank. And then between the new lot here, our existing lot, and the First State Bank lot, we're gonna be adding like 78 stalls in that area right now for downtown parking. Any other questions on the plat? Again, this is gonna have to go to council as well, for them to bless.
Looking for a resolution to bring this plan to council.
I think it's just gotta get blessed here, approved here, and then also approved the council, so. So you can just approve the plat as presented.
Look for approval of the North Water Pearl Street plot.
I'll make that approval.
Be made motion.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Same.
Carried.
Was
One
there,
abstain.
Pardon?
I
One-
have
one
to
abstention?
abstain because pretty chop.
Dave, you want just discussion on the chicken ordinance?
yeah, we're currently working on a chicken ordinance. Looking at some other municipalities that have recently adopted those. So I will have at least a draft copy ready for the next meeting for us to look over.
What do we have now?
So we're using the one, Menasha, help me out.
Yeah, well, right now, our current city, our new city attorney looked at the code, and the way the code is written, kind of ambiguous, but in his interpretation, the way the code is written is that chickens would only be allowed in an agricultural district
Right.
and not in any residential district. So that's why this is all coming to head, because of the interest about chickens. So Dave is gonna work on our ordinance. Menasha just approved one that we're piggybacking off of that one to start with, that the plan commission will be reviewing for consideration.
We probably fielded 8 to 10 calls of people looking to have them. So.
The only thing that I
Whether we
asked for though, when we have,
approve it- Yeah,
when
to
we have
'em.
that, is that we have all the information that we can make a good decision on it. Because a lot of times some of that stuff just comes and we have to make a snap decision on it. And we need, I think for this, we
Yeah.
would need pros, cons.
Yep, we don't have to
everything.
do it in one meeting either.
Good.
So.
And we're gonna want a number of chickens and what kind of chickens, like a rooster.
No,
Most of
yeah,
the towns don't want roosters.
no municipalities that I know of allow roosters at all,
Yeah.
or butchering on site either.
So the number is gonna be probably the key question of the ordinance. How many chickens can you have?
Correct.
would
And,
think.
and how it's going to be enforced. I think that's the other thing, because I've heard of already people that have complained about the noise of it and they don't even know where to go with their complaint. And that's the other thing that, yeah, I understand that, but they didn't. And so at that time, I mean, those are all those concerns that I think we need to have here when we're asked to make a decision about something like that.
And then also, I don't have it on here, but we're going to be looking at possibly putting up, trying to get an RFP out to start the zoning ordinance. So I think we need to get going on that right away once, assuming it gets adopted at council, the comprehensive plan, then I think we need to set up meetings to start talking about our zoning ordinance. So.
And just like the comp plan process, that'll be a process. The zoning code has a lot to go into it. Our zoning code needs a lot of work. So
You had talked about some of that going and that you were getting someone to come in and take a look at, did we do that or?
We'll have to put RFPs out for bids.
which I'm sure Cedar
Look at
Corp
that.
would be interested in
Yeah.
putting in a
So.
RFP for that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a big process. There's a lot of stuff to that. We're
Mhm.
finding so much in the code right now that is ambiguous or conflicting, and there's a lot.
Found another new good one the other day. There's two different graphs that totally contradict each other.
Mhm.
So it's just one of those things over the years, things have been added and changed
Yep.
and
This is a big first step, getting the comprehensive plan approved, because that'll be the basis for the zoning ordinance. So
There will be a lot of topics that you'll need to address that have come up over, I mean, renewable energy, solar, communication towers. I mean, some of these things governments are a little hand tied on based on state legislation, and the code needs to make sure that the proper statutes are cited and make sure that your authority isn't overreaching. And there's a lot of other issues that, pop up over time that you have to regulate. So, yeah, it's obviously a good, healthy thing to go through the code and make those adjustments where necessary. Backyard chickens was, another item that has really got active here over the last 10 years. And you may not want to stop there. There's been communities that I've worked with that have dealt with, exotics in terms of animals. Is it cool that somebody has an alligator in their backyard or, has a big cat that they want to bring in? Those kind of things. You don't think about it, but sometimes it's nice to have a little control over some of that in case somebody gets a wild hair to have one of those things. So, yeah, a lot of things to look at. And it's good to do it.
The
that's
next
all I
thing
have,
is-
Bob.
Pardon?
That's all I have.
Want to review for the next meeting for April 27th? That, everybody make that one?
That would be our regular meeting. Yeah.
Regular meeting, the 27th? Susie? Guys?
And so now,
conflicts?
yeah,
We'll have our next meeting the 27th then. You have nothing else then, Dave?
That's it.
Got anything, Chad?
I do not.
No? Mayor? I'm good. Look for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Susie, seconded by Donna.